我记得我回忆哈，不是个毛病，我没听得错。按照我可不可以？ 我这个人最頭髮嘅 ，sorry。佢係呢隻數咩？係嗰個唔知乜鬼。即係冇人就食。咩踢拖？Be friend。其實唔係啊，都會我唔知。地方是可以放平時我去過食飯，唔係屋企買生，我屋企食飯，唔係買翻嚟食。哦，你想做乜嘢？你咪有出街食咩？你同你媽成日出街食。
Okay. Are we done now? This.
Oh, okay. Something about raise and raises.
What does she talk about? What's the text type? Why is it a speech?
This on TED Talk.
Yeah, if you're not looking at the worksheet. What's the text type?
Speech.
How do you know?
Storyteller.
So?
She introduces herself.
What else?
She said she's going to introduce stories.
I would like to tell you a few personal stories. Okay, why does that make me think it's a speech?
Maybe actually when you give a speech, you will tell the audience what you are going to say.
Yeah, exactly. Why? When I do it in an essay, I would like to tell you a few personal stories in my essay. And also the word tell. She's speaking, right? I would like to tell you, not I would like to write to you. I would like to whatever else, right? Okay, why else is it a speech? Come on now. Are we out of practice? Why is this not an essay? Hello? So, why is this a speech? Yes. Okay, let's start with paragraph 4. What does paragraph 4 tell me that makes it seem like a speech? No guesses. Take a guess, Susanna. What makes it a speech in paragraph 4? What 2 words make it a speech? I think. Yeah, that's something you say when you're speaking. If you ever wrote what demonstrates comma, I think, comma, in an essay, write out. Yeah, she's writing this, the way this is written, right? That's what makes it a speech and not an essay, because people don't write essays like that. Yeah. So yes, you have to identify the text type, which is speech, but you also have to identify the features of your text type. So some of the features of a speech are personal things. I think now, she says now a lot, right? Now I loved blah, blah, blah. Now this despite blah, blah, blah. That's all little personal things. That's how she chooses to speak, right? We all have a personal style of speaking. Some people will say a lot of like, American, they're always going, yeah, and then like was like just so bad. That's their personal. Okay, what else gives it a personal edge? Give me another example of where there's another phrase that can be quite personal in the matter of speaking. You don't have to look past page 1.
Not now, right?
We already have now. Ariel, take a guess.
The sentence start with connect us.
Where?
So
And so, yeah. Why?
in essay, we don't usually.
Exactly. In an essay, you would not start with and or so. Okay, one more thing. Another feature of the speech. Does anybody need more? Or are we okay? Yeah, we seem okay. Okay, so what's the last thing? Yes, still on the first page.
The length of the paragraph.
The length? What do you mean?
Because it's too short for being an essay.
You can have paragraphs that small. That's fine. Come on, take a guess. All right, Jenny, take a guess.
Is it that there's many eyes?
You can have essays with eyes.
There's like so many.
No, there are many eyes, but not necessarily, no.
And I realize that people like me. I don't know.
Not quite. Cherry, take a guess.
Let's do the first page, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ask a question. Oh, no. I don't know.
It's finish your food, don't you know? People like Fide's family have nothing. Called dialogue. Would you have dialogue in an essay? You would quote dialogue in an essay, but you wouldn't just throw in what your mother says. She's not summarizing what her mother told her. She is word to word repeating, which is much more natural in conversation than in text, right? Because I'm not going to go, well, and then Jenny said, I'll just say exactly what Jenny had said, right? That's how you tell a story to your friends, right? Okay, the last feature of the speech is called, I think we have done this, but I can't remember for sure, so I'm just going to tell you, yeah? It's called the contractions, where you can see it in, they weren't quite as easy to find, weren't instead of were not. That is much more casual to say weren't. Okay, so somebody tell me all of the features of a speech. What's the first feature? Let's pick on someone. Let's pick on.
Start with an introduction to tell the audience what she would like to say.
Yes, I would like to tell you. That's the word, tell.
And then the second one is, I think, to show the more personal life.
Yeah, so the use of casual sort of, I think, I suppose.
The third one is use words instead of were not.
Yeah, what's that called?
I don't know, some casual, not.
Contractions, because she's contracting. Right? Okay. What else? There was one more.
Start with
What else?
a use of dialogue.
And common in Okay, use of dialogue, correct, to tell a story, right? Okay, now, what does she actually talk about? Content of her speech. Let's go with Cherry. What does she talk about?
Her life.
Her life. Okay, her life where? In Nigeria. Life in Nigeria. Where is Nigeria? Africa. Right. Does she always stay in Nigeria? Where does she go to? USA. So it's about her life in Nigeria and then moving to the USA. Okay. All right. You go to handout 1. The basics for you. Oh my God, the spacing on this is awful. Next, Nigerian writer speaking at a TED Talk. What's a TED Talk?
Something that's really popular right now. Is it like a platform for people to speak, like to express their ideas?
Sure, yeah. Why? Why would you give people a platform like that?
To present their ideas to the public.
What ideas?
They're not being like people like often neglect or like they don't.
That are ideas that are neglected or new. Okay, what else, Cherry? Right, so TED Talk is a platform, or TED. Sorry? No. So TED, oh my God. So what they do is they bring you people. You can't, I have lots of ideas, right? I think, I don't know, that we should be able to eat dessert for dinner, but that's not necessarily a good idea. People who have influential ideas, someone who is known in their community for doing something. So they bring these people onto the stage and they say, tell your story. Yeah. Right. Audience are people, social issues. Can someone name a social issue?
Minimum wage.
I'm sorry?
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage, okay. Employment. What else? Sure. What else? Discrimination. Cool. All right. What are the social issues being highlighted in this speech?
Race, discrimination,
Poverty.
Race, discrimination, poverty. What else? Culture shock. Shock. Here we go.
And then their culture like are has differences, so there's conflict.
Necessarily always conflict.
But like they have like their opinion to others' culture.
No, that's more discrimination or prejudice. That's not culture shock. What is culture shock?
They're surprised to see those cultures.
You're just surprised. Yeah, it's just a shock, right? So if you have grown up life in a village in northern China and you have never left that village, and then when you turn 16, they put you on a plane and you show up in Hong Kong, would you experience culture shock?
Yes.
Why?
Used to.
Exactly, because you're not used to all of this. So that kid shows up in Hong Kong and she's like, what the hell is going on? Right? So she's looking around and she's like, where are all the cows? Like, where's the sheep? Right? Why are there so many people? That's culture shock. So culture shock is not a bad thing. Response to culture shock that can be bad. Text type we know is speech. The purpose is to inform and to persuade. Why persuade? What is she trying to persuade us of?
Change the view of the public. Because they think that they are really important and actually don't know.
Not quite.
Don't judge people that only for one side of the story.
Getting closer.
Don't judge people like on their back. But on the
Don't go into the judgment. There's no judgment. She's not talking about judgment. There's something to do with the story.
Don't just see one side of the story.
Yes, don't only see the single story. That's what she's persuading us of. She's trying to persuade us and tell us that there are many stories. There's not just stories where white kids play in the snow and whatever, right? Stories of kids eating story, okay? What's the next one? After purpose? First person narrative, right? So the narrative that she plays is of storytelling. The word not only exists in first person narrative. I think in my box I wrote narrative, which just means a story, as if she's telling it, right? Okay, now at school, the language and literary features that you will do, and they'll cover everything you need to know. The ones I want to focus on are the difficult ones. So that's the ones I've written down. The first person narrative. But before we go into that, I'd like to ask, what is an anecdote? And everyone's copying at the same time. An anecdote.
A short and amusing, interesting story.
An anecdote differ from an analogy. Put them here.
Analogy doesn't necessarily wait. This one doesn't necessarily mean that. No, wait, it is for myself. Analogy is you can talk about others.
What?
I don't know what.
Okay, so what's an anecdote? What does Google say?
Story of yourself.
What does Google say?
Comparison between one thing and another.
Okay. Between these two things is, the first one is just an example. I'm just telling you a story, right? So if I want to explain something really complicated, like, I don't know. Oh, okay. Here's an anecdote. Yeah. The best way he's known is, right? The apple fell from the tree and he's like, oh, gravity. Yeah, that's basically what happened. right? That is a, yeah, an analogy. Oh, apple is boom. Analogy, because I have two things to show you. Ideas of physics came together. Kind of, yeah. The reason I'm teaching you both is because sometimes you will have to use the word analogy. Speech every now and then. Yeah? And in some of the other texts that you will study, there are analogies, not anecdotes. Yeah? So it's better that you start familiarizing yourself with these terms. Okay, first person narrative. I put quote as optional. Because for some of these features that I have listed, you do not need quotes. Some of them you will definitely need a quote, but it is up to you to decide which ones. So with that being said, I'm going to give you maybe just 7 minutes, I guess. And Jenny, you are in charge of first person narrative. Ursula can have anecdotes. Lucky Ariel can have a semantic field. Cherry, transitional words. And Susanna can have anaphora. So it is your job to find out what your name thingy, your feature means. I want you to write down a definition of your feature somewhere. It doesn't have to be on the doc. It can just be on your piece of paper, whatever. And if you need a quote, then I want you to write down the quote. Yeah? All right, off you go. That quote is way too long. Anecdote.
打粉粉粉，即係特別嗰份。有幾多份？啊，原來呢個你嘅腦袋學壞咗1分鐘。即係嘢，應該咁平，我咁樣剪嘢。就是越好聽嘅話方便，但如果睇唔睇都sorry。你去做嗰啲？我話你邊度有睇完之後咧，嗰個搭巴士咧，嗰個嘢你上去搞。佢呢度我係睇冇睇，因為嗰邊係靚仔隔，跟住之後就會，跟住我同學喺教度搭咗佢頭啦，我呢個玩。
Got you have 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Oh, have some chocolate.
Can I just type the word out?
Yeah, do whatever you want. I don't know how to open this. Okay, so let's start with first person. Okay, so, oh, it's fine, just do it later, fine. Okay, now, what you're gonna do first person narrative, is I want the impact of
Awesome.
It's okay. Someone will.
It's like really oh,
So, it's more personal, realistic, sure. Why? What is the impact of making the speech realistic and personal?
So that the audience can relate to the human experience.
Yeah, but yeah, what's the impact? How am I supposed to feel?
Like I can feel like the reader's feeling.
But can I?
Google Translate.
But she's Nigerian. I'm not Nigerian.
But like, you can be like be in front of you more, and you can understand her situation.
Empathize.
Empathize.
Yes, not relate to her experience because we can't relate to her experience, but we can understand it. Yeah. Yeah? Okay. What is the impact of I had never been outside Nigeria? No.
Shock.
No. What that tells me is where the culture shock begins. That's the big, that as soon as she says that, anytime someone says, oh, I've never been outside of blah, oh, you are in for it, right? So yeah, we understand the beginning of her culture shock. Why her worldview might be different from mine. Okay, what's an anecdote?
Going to write that down.
Yes.
Understand.
The story of yourself.
Mm-hmm. And the impact?
You mean the first one?
Any of them?
The first one is to support conservative storyteller. And
Sure.
animal.
Why give all of those anecdotes? All of those anecdotes, the impact is to support the claims of her being a storyteller. She'd be a really crap storyteller if she didn't give us any anecdotes. You know? It's like if you go to a math lesson and you don't see any numbers. Then you're just like, what's going on? Where am I? Yeah? So it's to follow the format of the speech, right? Follow the format of her storytelling experiences. Okay, so what is the impact of those anecdotes? How do we feel? Not quite. The purpose of the anecdotes is to show us her context. We are not in the same context. Me and Achidi did not grow up in Nigeria together next to each other. We are not best friends. I don't know anything about her. The only way I can learn something about her is if she tells me about her family history, where she grew up, her background, what it was like. Yeah? And that's what she does. So she tells me, oh, when I turned 8, we had a new houseboy. And I'm just sitting there going, what? Right? So she has to tell me this extra info. Otherwise, I'm not going to know anything. Yeah? Okay. What is a semantic field? Mm-hmm.
It's really nice.
Mm-hmm. Mhm. Okay. What is a lexical set of semantically related items?
You just and after you say something.
Not quite. Sounds like symbolism. Let me show you an example of semantic field. Go to paragraph 2. Right, paragraph 2. Everything in bold creates the semantic field of storytelling. Semantics means the meaning of semantic. When someone says the semantic of, that just means the meaning of something, right? She's using exactly the same words or similar words to create an atmosphere of learning, or her first introduction, if you will, to storytelling. Yeah. Now I can create a semantic field for this classroom. So I can say things like candy, paper, pencils. And when I add all of those words up together, I can get to an understanding that, oh, she's talking about a lesson. They had some candy. That's it. Does that make sense?
Say one more time, what's the definition of semantic?
Yeah, semantic field is using a set of similar words to show a relationship between one idea. Yeah, and the one idea is storyteller. Well, not between, but for an idea, if you will. Yeah? So let's say I want to create a semantic field for sports day. What kind of words would you include?
Track.
Track, what else?
Field.
Field. What else?
Students.
Students, what else?
Sharing.
Race. Like physical racing, not race.
Noisy.
Noisy.
Medals.
Medals. So you use appropriate vocab. Instead of saying medal, I'm not going to say like prize. Right? Okay. Create a semantic field for the theater, like going to watch a movie. Watch. What's out? Like, I'm going to go watch Titanic. Create a semantic field for Titanic.
Dull.
Dull, long. Cruise, yes. Jack, actors. Yeah. Sea, dying, freezing to death. Crash, iceberg. Can go on forever, right? Fire, food, rich people, poor people, dancing, stairs, Kate Winslet. Like, I mean, I can go on forever, right? So that's how you create a semantic field. Okay. What's the next one? Transitional words. Sherry, what is transitional word?
You mean the definition? a word words that provide connections between ideas.
So
Meaning, that connects maybe the word in the time.
yeah, like time references, any signposts, right? So yeah, you can have your general connectives like but, and, they, so, blah, blah, blah. You can also have things like, look at paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. What this demonstrates. That's transitional phrase instead of word, right?
It should include impression.
Yeah, what is the meaning of transition? To show change. She's moving from one idea to another. Something you is moreover, however, right? Instead of using the common things you use in an essay, she uses things that's more appropriate. Yeah? Okay. Anaphora. Oh, yes. What is the impact of transitional phrases?
Does it make readers be clear about the period of time?
Not really. Remember, she's speaking. This is not an essay. Everything is to do with the actual spoken.
To be more
To show structure. Yeah. So the impact is to create with I would like to tell you some stories, right? So she has to, there's a point to not just telling us random stories for fun, right? So the point of all of her stories is don't believe in one single story. That's why she has many, many stories, yeah? It's a structure to help illustrate her point, the danger of a single story. Anaphora, what is it?
What's the impact of semantic field?
Oh, the impact, sorry, I totally forgot about that. The impact of a semantic field, there can usually be many. The examples I gave you, like, of sports day, blah, 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 that's all very easy. The semantic field, Ariel, use the appropriate words there. Where did you find girl with chocolate skin, by the way?
22.
I have no idea what that means. What paragraph is that? Actually, you've happened upon a semantic field, but you haven't picked all the right ones. Okay. Chocolate skin. Okay. And then sorry?
Curly.
Yeah, very curly. Yeah, so those two words alone, the impact created is the not discovering, I guess. Yeah, it's fine. Reading about blue-eyed blonde kids running around in the snow, and she doesn't find herself in it. If you read a story, not even a story, imagine if all your life you read stories about kids, you'd be like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I look like that? Yeah? So that's what we're trying to get at with the semantic field. Okay, what is an anaphora?
Of a word or phrase at the beginning of each line.
Meaning, give me an example.
I remember.
Remember, yes, so I remember. Okay, now can fit into there. What else?
I don't know if this counts or not. Stories matter. Many stories matter.
Yeah. Anaphora can also be in using pronouns like it, her, they, blah, blah, blah. Right? But in this case, we don't really have to worry about that, so it's fine. Okay, I think we all know what emotive language is. So can I get some examples of emotive language? Just read through and just shout out. Or everybody, starting with.
I love those American and British books.
What?
I love those American and British books I read.
Give me another one.
Well, this demonstrates, I think, is how impressionable and vulnerable we are in face. That's okay. It's pretty cool words.
Give me another one, Ursula.
As quickly as by two languages as guilty in a question of a single story.
Shorter. How about just as guilty? Hey, there we go.
Felt enormous control.
Wait, say it again. I
Felt enormous fighting for victories.
Okay, enormous. Cherry. Okay. There's one really beautiful one on the first page. I don't know why no one's picking that one. Here, I'll give you this one for free. It saved me. Cherry. Which one yet?
I remember I was overwhelmed with shame.
Okay, Susanna.
Hurt. I remember first feeling like something.
Pick one from the last.
Last page.
Oh, actually, sorry, not the last page, the second last page.
I could not have been more ashamed of myself.
Yeah. All right, fine. We can keep it. I could not have been more. And what is the impact of emotive language? What is the impact of emotive language?
Evoke the speaker's personal feelings.
What?
I want to ask that question.
Mhm.
Is it I need to cover the because people can hack in and look at me?
Yeah, it's pretty creepy. That's an actual thing. I always have a little thing usually, but this is not my computer.
I don't take
Yeah, but it's just better, you know. Right. So, okay, you can use the word evoke since you like that so much. Evoke what?
Yes, I like evoke. There you go.
sense of feeling.
Yes, evoke different feelings in the audience. What are those feelings? Name some of those feelings based on the quotes we have picked. What else? Guilty. I don't feel guilty.
Sorry for the
That's sympathy.
Shameful.
I don't feel shameful.
relief.
Yeah.
It saved me.
What else? What about overwhelmed with shame?
Overwhelmed.
With shame.
Disgust.
No, I don't feel disgusted at her. How do I feel about her? This is from the audience. Emotive language is to evoke, so it makes me have a reaction. What reaction am I having? Sad for her. It's the same as sympathy. Maybe surprised. She's genuine, right? We feel that she is kind, that her views are, the way she describes, I could not have been more ashamed of myself, blah, blah, blah. We feel like she's learned her lesson. You know what I mean? Like she's not going to be as judgmental in the future. What is that quality in somebody? When you're like, you learned your lesson, good job. What is that? What do you call that?
Impressed.
Yes, impressed. It's hard to say things like, I was wrong. How many times have you fought with your parents when you were obviously wrong? You're like, oh, you don't understand me. Yeah. Right? Because it's hard to admit that you're wrong. That's okay, but she's doing it, and she's doing it in front of thousands of people. And she's like, I was wrong. I was judging people. I was being racist.
She did?
That's basically what she's saying,
Oh, I don't
Right?
say other people.
right? So she's sitting there and she's going, I judged that poor Mexican dude, right?
Oh.
And I feel bad, and I won't do it again. I'm owning up to my mistake, right? So we're actually a little bit impressed. We're like, oh, well, cool. You're better than I am, because I would never say something like that, right? Okay, what are the themes? Very quickly then.
Race.
Not race, prejudice.
Poverty.
What else?
Appearance.
Sorry?
Appearance. No, I don't know what's that called. Not appearance.
Okay. What else? Prejudice, poverty. Any other?
Cultural shock.
I wouldn't say cultural shock. I would say maybe,
Cultural difference.
yeah. Okay, one more.
Discrimination.
No, you can have prejudice or discrimination there. Ignorance. What is ignorance? How is ignorance different to prejudice?
Not knowing the truth.
No.
Lack of knowledge or information.
How is that different to prejudice?
Prejudice is
No.
having already have a view on someone, but then ignorance is we don't have lack of information for that person. Yeah,
Why is ignorance bad?
because
Like,
they don't understand other people. They didn't have even try to.
Have you heard the phrase ignorance is bliss? Ignorance is bliss. I don't know if you must have.
Well, DC very old.
Is there a Chinese translation for this?
Not sure.
Okay. Ignorance is bliss means if you don't know something, you are happy. If you are someone who's stupid, you are happy. I'm sure there's a Chinese translation for this. Yeah? That's what bliss means. There we go. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? So ignorance is different from prejudice because in order to form a prejudice, in order to form an idea that's not nice, you have to not be ignorant. So somebody like Donald Trump is prejudiced. He's not ignorant. Does that make sense? So when he says things like, I hate Muslim people, I hate Black people, right? He's forming a judgment on them without reason, right? Someone who's ignorant is my grandma. So when I tell my grandma, like, hey, grandma, I teach, 5 girls and they're all Chinese. She goes, oh my God, they all speak English? Because my grandma has never left India. So to my grandma, it's amazing that we live in Hong Kong. She doesn't understand how my family survives living in Hong Kong. She has never left her village, left her neighborhood. She has lived there all her life. Yeah, so she's not a hateful person, right? If I took one of you and I went, this is one of the girls I teach, she'd be like, do you want some food? Are you hungry? She's not gonna be like, oh, dirty Chinese girl, don't touch me, right? She'll just feed you because she's a grandma, right? So that's what ignorance is. Both are dangerous because you should obviously be educated, right? But prejudice is actually dangerous. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Short sentences. I'm a storyteller. Matter. Right? Any of those, just take. Okay. Now this is my favorite. Parallelism. Parallelism. It's half the battle.
Parallelism.
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 Yeah. There we go.
Parallelism.
Yeah? What is parallelism? What does the word parallel mean? You do math. Yeah, exactly. You do math. So parallelism is when you have two ideas that are, no, they're not the same. They are actually quite different because they don't touch. They're just side by side. They exist together, right? So the parallelism that she's creating, you don't need a quote for this one, right? How she creates a parallelism is she exposes her own ignorance and so she exposes or shares her own ignorance and prejudice to give examples of ignorance and prejudice. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Can you repeat the definition?
Yeah. The definition of parallelism is when you have two ideas that are quite different to each other, but the main theme of those ideas is the same. So the way I would use parallelism in a sentence will be something like, Achidi creates parallelism by sharing stories of her own prejudice to show the audience examples of unkind thoughts or judgments. Does that make sense? It's always creates parallelism, not uses, not makes, just creates parallelism. Parallelism and the other one, semantic field, creating. She creates a semantic field. She creates parallelism, not a parallelism, just parallelism. Okay, asyndetic listing. I love this one. So you know one type of listing, rule of three, right? Without. Yes. So asyndetic listing is commas. If there are lots of commas, it's asyndetic listing. Find anything with a comma, you can throw that in there and, you know. Right, so syndetic listing is with conjunctions. Okay, what is sibilance? She's speaking. She's not going to use conjunctions. I know.
What's the impact from using many comments?
It's to adhere to the text type. Yeah, so it's to, I don't know. Right, what is sibilance? Yeah, so single story is your sibilance. Why create that sibilance? What's the impact? So she's promoting, I would say, a positive idea, right? Which is that we should embrace diversity, right? And the helps soften the idea and create a rhyme so that the audience will remember it. It's almost like a slogan that she's creating. Okay, we got through all of that. Nice. We still have 5 minutes to spare. So here is what I would like you guys to do for next class. And I'm sure you would have hopefully done Danger of a Single Story by that point. Hopefully, right? What I would like you to do is annotate the thingy, the text, but I'd like to tell you what to annotate. So look at my, right? I love it. I love it. Yeah. Okay.
You can hold up for a picture.
Sorry?
You can hold up for a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Paragraph 1 and 2. How many paragraphs are there? Can someone count? Yes.
Is this the
Just read it to me.
a synthetic listing? This phrase quote.
No, read it to me.
Oh, okay. To would think that Africa was a place of beautiful landscapes, beautiful animals, and incomprehensible.
Yes, that is a synthetic listing. All that whole thing. From beautiful landscapes all the way to white foreigner.
And then the sentence that looking down.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Can someone count how many paragraphs there are in this, Ariel? Somebody count the paragraphs.
People landscape will go to mine. White foreigner.
Yes.
Rolling up the tortilla.
Beautiful landscape 有乜鬼嘢？
Watching people going to work, rolling up tortillas, blah, blah, blah. Yes.
Watching what?
Watching the people going to work, rolling up tortillas in the marketplace, smoking, laughing.
Oh,
Mexicans who were fleeing the healthcare system, sneaking across the border, being arrested, that sort of thing. Actually, that's a triplet. Never mind. The one about Mexicans is rule of 3, not synthetic listing.
Where?
I must quickly add.
They were end the story.
Mm-hmm.
That one is rule of 3.
Yeah, because there's only 3 items.
triplet, right?
Yep.
What the? I remember yes, I remember. I remember this.
Well, no one is telling me the number of paragraphs in this.
Paragraphs.
Mm-hmm. How many paragraphs are there?
18.
18. That's awkward.
One divided by 4. 5.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Right, paragraphs 1 to 3 is cherry. Paragraphs 4, where's 4? Let me see, 4. 6. Okay, let's do, yeah, okay. Because that's pretty long, you know? 4, 5, 6. Okay, 4, 5, 6 can be Ariel.
對好多，約埋一齊玩啊！
Paragraph 7 to 10. 10 is that single line. The stove is Susanna.
OK
唔係，
我放
我就放
我唔怕喎，黐線鬼。
係啊，
唔要㗎，
你下個禮拜幾邊啊？得唔得？
Okay, paragraph 11 to 13 is Ursula. 11 to 13, and the rest is Jenny.
What do I have to do for the paragraphs?
Everything after paragraph 13 is you.
What do I have to do for the paragraphs?
What you're going to do is what we have been doing here, which is taking the annotations and the notes.
Okay.
So you see how I've written down some of the examples, summary, simple hook.
Where do we annotate our own?
No, here, in that document. Okay, I want not just the features that we have covered. If you find other features, which you definitely will, I also want to see that. Yeah, so I don't want to see only everything we have studied. I want to see everything you can spot.
Okay.
Okay, right. That's right. Okay, all done, off you go.